Hi everybody, this is Lovely Mbasi. When we think about growth, or now that you've heard me say growth, I'm sure what you're thinking about is money, tangible things, houses, cars. When we think growth, we're always thinking what it is that we can get that is tangible. We don't really so much concentrate on the self, what it is that we need to improve about ourselves, our person, our attitude, our communication skills. The things that are referred to as soft skills, we're thinking about hard skills, you know. But all of the soft skills help you think better. All of the soft skills help you grow better, even in the tangible stuff. Let's use communication as an example. When you learn how to communicate, and let me say that better. When you're growing as a communicator, because communication differs from place to place. The way you communicate at home is different to the way you communicate outside. The way you communicate to your children is different from the way you communicate to your spouse. With your spouse, the way you communicate to your friends is different from the way you communicate to your pastor. And so communication is really different, and it depends on the scenario you find yourself. And as we grow in life and as life goes on, you find yourself in different scenarios, and you will have to learn to communicate in all of those scenarios. So if we use communication as an example here right now to talk about growth, the way you communicate can make you get a deal, or it can make you lose a deal. Over the years, I've been developing my communication skills, and every time I find myself in a new place, a new situation that I have not been in before, and I observe the people there, I start to look at how to communicate with each person. But it's also about understanding each person in that scenario, so you know how to communicate with them. Because you want the best out of that situation, you want the best out of that person. You want, especially if it's business, you want to make the most money out of that. You want the transaction to be great. And if you cannot communicate in that situation, then you kind of lose it. I have also been in situations where I am pretty sure that maybe the way I communicated didn't let the thing go forward. Maybe I communicated that I didn't want it, or I gave off those vibes. And sometimes when I don't want something, I can give up vibes with my whole entire body. And that's just the way I am. But it's not the way I have to be always, you see. So this is the thing about growth. Sometimes you need to have a poker face. That's why the best gamblers are the ones that you cannot tell from their face. Some of us, you can tell from our face. But these are things that you can develop. And if I want to I'm going to use Nigerian women as an example now, because they are about the only people I've heard say this in this way. A Nigerian woman who has a temper problem will say to you, "Oh, I am hot-tempered. And because I'm hot-tempered, people must just not behave like this around me, otherwise they will get it." If you're a teenager and you say you're hot-tempered, okay, we'll let it slide. Early 20s, maybe we'll let it slide. In your 30s and your 40s, if you're still saying that you have a hot temper and you're using that as an excuse for bad behavior, you need to check yourself. Having a hot temper as an adult is not a good thing, and it is something you can control, because it is a behavior. It is a behavior you can train and you can grow out of. Now, we are born with certain abilities and attitudes and all of that, and personality, and some will learn. But even the ones that we are born with, we can refine it, we can make it better. We can let go of things that don't serve us. And having a bad temper is not something that serves you in any way, shape, or form. It actually puts people off, and you will lose business and you will lose people. So those are things that I would want, and I would suggest that we grow in, like talk about your attitude, or let me say, talk about our attitude, our communication style, whether it's verbally. These are things that you can really train. And think about the soft skills that you want to train. Talking about learning more. Learning can come in different forms. It can be reading more, because it expands your mind. Now, one of the things that I would like to encourage you in, as you're growing those soft skills that will translate into growing your business, and to help in your workplace if you are an employed staff. When you do all of this, I want you to write it down. So if I am out there and I'm watching someone else communicate, I will tell you something today in church. The pastor was preaching, and I'm recording this on a Sunday before I posted. The pastor was preaching, and I made notes. I made notes of what he was preaching, but I also made a note somewhere about the way he was communicating. How was he connecting with me? And it doesn't mean that I lost track of what was happening around me. No. How did he communicate with me? At what point did he lose me? What was the reason I felt that he lost me in that message? And what was the reason that I felt that he got me back if he did? So I wrote all of that down. And later today, I'm going to review it and say, okay, so if I was in that same situation, how would I have done things differently? If I was put in that same thing, speaking in that same space, speaking about that same thing, how would I have communicated differently to make sure I don't lose my audience? That is how you grow as a communicator. And self-control, it's so diverse as well. When you act in a certain way, you need to review and say, how could I have acted differently? If you see somebody act in a certain way, you need to write it down and review later. How was that person's attitude right? Was it wrong? Especially if you're working on your attitude, and attitude is a thing you want to work on. How did that person's attitude affect everybody around us when they behaved in this way? When you write it down, it makes it better for you to grow. That is how you grow. So put energy in your personal development as much as you're putting it in making money, because the two are joined at the hip. One always feeds into the other. And let me tell you something, if you don't grow personally, at some point, even the thing of making money or growing in your job, it's going to stop somewhere. It's going to stop somewhere, and if you're not careful, it might even crash. Now, unless you are a politician, and that's a whole different ballgame where people are corrupt and all of that, they don't need to grow personally to play in that. They have a whole different kind of growth thing going on there. But as us regular people, and doing the right thing, following the right path, we do need to grow in certain soft skills and pick your own, work on it so that you as a person can grow, and that you will see the benefit ultimately in your business life, your work life, and most importantly, in your personal life. Have a good one, and most definitely keep growing. Cheers. Bye.